French embassy here in South Africa has urged French travellers to leave the country as soon as possible. A travel ban has been placed on foreign nationals from high-risk COVID-19 countries from Wednesday, and France is one of them. Well, French ambassador to South Africa, Aurélien Le Chevalier, joining us from our Pretoria studio this evening. Ambassador, very good evening to you, and thanks so much for your time. Can you clarify your call for us, please? What are you asking French travellers to do at the moment?
Good evening, Iveka, and thank you very much for having me. Actually, we are talking about the travelers, so people coming from France, like tourists, for example, or people in business travels. And since the President Ramaphosa and the government decided to put a travel ban on different countries, we have to get prepared for them to go back to France as soon as possible, or to other countries where they live and work. So we understand, we expected a little bit this decision, and now we are sending the right messages to work with the different companies, the different travel agencies, and the airline companies to make sure that everything will go smoothly in the days to come.
Okay, so there is no possibility of them staying here because, I mean, ordinarily, the understanding would be if there's a travel ban, we wouldn't be allowing any more of those visitors to come. Would it not be best for them to remain where we have, a markedly smaller number of cases than you actually do in France at the moment?
Well, there is possibility to stay, but then the risk for them is that the different flights from Air France and the other companies will be in standby for maybe a certain amount of time. So we feel it's better to tell responsibly to the French travelers that it's safer to go back to France as soon as possible. And we understand these measures taken by the South African government. What we need, of course, is a good dialogue with the authorities to make sure that all the consequences are taken into consideration and that we can discuss maybe different exceptions to make sure that everything is going right. But we understand that we have all to address this epidemic, to address this challenge, and to take tough measures and aggressive measures sometimes. But it's good to keep the international dialogue and international cooperation to find the best answers, the best possible reactions.
Okay, so for those who want to go back to France, like you say, you've been talking to the different travel agencies, the other organizations involved. What kind of assistance will you be offering them then?
Well, usually, it's with the insurance companies or the airline companies, for example, the flexibility to change the dates, to move the date for their flights. This is something that can be offered by the companies. Of course, we offer also a consular or embassy support. There is a hotline. There are people in charge of following these individual situations. But we hope that with a few days in advance, we can handle this situation in the days to come.
What is the situation in France at the moment, Ambassador? What are your, at the moment, as far as you know, the number of confirmed cases and deaths at the moment?
Well, we have 5,000 cases in France, and it's still increasing. So the President Macron and the government have decided also to take very, very stiff measures, decisions against the spreading of the epidemic. We closed the schools, we closed the universities, we closed now the restaurants and the cafes because we want to make everything possible to stop the spreading of the epidemic and to put this crisis behind us. So we call for individual responsibility and collective responsibility, of course, and international coordination to make sure that we together overcome this challenge with the European and African response appropriately.
Do you have travel bans in place in France there?
Well, not really, but we have a quarantine and we check, we monitor the different situations. And also because of the different international travel bans, the airline companies have stopped the different flights from abroad. So we are considering maybe going even stiffer to really stop radically the progress of the epidemic in the next days.
Well, I would imagine with Europe now being the epicenter, Ambassador, after China seems to have managed to contain its situation there, that there are stricter days to come, especially with Italy now being the hotspot, if we were to call it, for this virus.
Yes, of course, we think of our Italian friends. We are trying to show support and solidarity. Now, the good news is that we have really a European response based on the scientific community research. So we want to implement policies based on science, and I think that Africa and South Africa are doing the same. But it's true that, as you said, we are in the heat of the crisis, and we are doing everything we can to face this situation. Because, as you know, there will be an impact. There will be short-term and mid-term consequences in terms of economy and business. And so, the sooner, the better we can move forward and try to recover from this situation. But I think that we are taking that very, very seriously and very responsibly.
With France being identified as a high-risk country, can I ask why there is no travel ban in place there?
Well, actually, because there are different travel bans in Europe, but we choose not to stop the flights because we are checking all the passengers arriving to France, and we have a strategy to follow the different cases on a really case-by-case situation. So that's what we have at the moment.
All right. Well, we are expecting to hear, or the nation is expecting to hear from President Macron in less than an hour here. What are you expecting him to say with, like you say, the numbers sort of spiraling out of control at the moment there?
No, I think there is an increase, of course, in the cases, but the president will say that we will probably have to stiffen a little more the measures, and there is possibility of parts of the territory that will be put in confinement, and to try to close even more organizations and companies and services. But we are indeed expecting new measures tonight to face this situation, and then we will keep coordinating with our friends and partners like South Africa to make sure that all the best decisions are made together.
All right. And what about South Africans who might be in France at the moment, Ambassador? Will there be any help to help them get back to their countries at the moment? Does it work both ways now?
Well, it's the same with us here. We abide by the regulations of South Africa. So the South Africans in France, they have to respect, of course, our measures of controlling the epidemic. But if they want to go back home, to go back to South Africa, I think that we are talking about the same flights that these French tourists, for example, these French travelers, that will go back to France in the coming days.
All right, Ambassador. And France, due to hold elections in June, do you think there's a possibility that might be postponed now?
Well, actually, we had the first round already last Sunday. So now the question is to know if we will do the second round next week. That's probably a decision that the president will clarify tonight, based again on the scientific recommendations.
All right, we'll keep an ear out for that. Thank you very much. That's the ambassador, French ambassador to South Africa, Aurélien Le Chevalier.